Okay, my wonderful kiddos. I'm sorry I can't be with you today. We are doing the beginning of the 3.4 notes. Now, I am going to skip the little warm-up piece down here, or up here on the top, and we're going to move down to example 1. Now, I'm going to show you 2 different ways to do long division and polynomial division today. And we're going to go through some of the division vocabulary that you guys are just not used to hearing all the time. So let's kind of walk through this and I'll show you exactly how to do it. So we're going to take this polynomial and we're going to divide it by this polynomial. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to set this up like a division problem. So I'm going to put the x plus 3 over here on the left, and then I'm going to make that division sign, and I'm going to put my other polynomial underneath. Just like that. Here's how division works. Now remember, pay close attention. I need to ask myself, what do I need to multiply this by, which is x to the first power, to turn it into x to the third power? I'm hoping you're all thinking x squared. You're going to write whatever you think that number is, or letters combo up at the top, and then you're going to do it. So you are going to multiply x squared times this term and times this term. So when you do that, you will get x cubed plus 3x squared. Okay, so what I did is I said, what do I need to multiply the very first term by to turn it so that this first term matches this one? You will not be able to get the second terms to match. That's okay. And then you do it and you write it underneath. Then you're going to draw a line. Here's the only hard part about what we're doing today. You must subtract. And not just the first term, you have to subtract the second. So you'll do x cubed minus x cubed. So your x cubes disappear. Then you do 5 minus 3, giving you 2x squared. So this term is a binomial, so we need 2 terms. So we're going to bring down a second term. Now you ask yourself, what do you need to multiply x by to make it look like 2x squared? I hope everyone's saying in the room 2x. So you write down 2x and then you do it. So you get 2x squared, and then you multiply this term also by 2x, and you get 6x. Okay, that's weird that they match. They usually don't. Okay, usually don't. All right, and now you have to do the hard part, which is make yourself subtract the first term and the second term. So 2x squared minus 2x squared, 0x squared, don't write anything down. 6x minus 6x, that's 0. Again, you don't bring anything down. Like you don't write anything down if it's 0. Now we have one last term. We're going to bring that down. 9. There is no way to multiply by either a letter or a number that's going to turn that into 9. So this piece right there is the remainder. I know you're like, I have not heard that word in so long. If I could spell it right. So that's what's left over. So you may say, yeah, but Ms. Blafer, what is my answer? My answer is this. X squared plus 2x, that's what's sitting up here on top of the line, plus the remainder over that little divisor. So that is your answer. What if there is no remainder? Then you don't have to write this little fraction at the end. You just leave it. Let's try another one. I'm gonna flip over to this. Oh, now I got a little vocab. Got some vocab. All right, so you've got your dividend over your divisor, and that's going to be equal to your quotient plus the remainder over the divisor. Okay, so let's just be really clear. I'm not testing you on this vocabulary. If you happen to know that vocabulary, fantastic. The dividend is the original item that you divide. The divisor, of course, is what you divide. This is your answer, and if you have a remainder, you write it that way. Okay? Let's try another problem. So I've gotten over here to my second problem for today. Sorry, I'm having a little cat issue. Hang on one second. Okay, I'm back. All right, so let's set this up again. So how do you know what goes underneath your division symbol? It's going to be the one with the higher power. So you're going to take this value and divide it by this one. So first thing I'm going to do is get all set up. So the 4x squared minus 6x plus 9 goes out here on the outside. Now let's talk about what goes underneath. So you will notice that you are missing a bunch of variable terms in there. So you notice how this side goes x squared, x constant. This goes straight from the x cubed right over to the constant. So you need to put some placeholders in. So I'm going to write 8x cubed. Then I'm going to write plus 0x squared plus 0x plus 27. You know, you may say, do I have to do that? Absolutely not, but it will make things considerably less confusing for you if you do it. Okay, let's do some division. Notice it says use 0 as coefficients for missing first and second degree terms, so I'm just saying you should do that. All right, now we're going to take a look at this and we're going to figure out what it is that we need to put into our problem so that we can have this term match this one. Remember, we don't care about the extras. They're just kind of along for the ride. So I hope everybody said, oh, I should multiply by 2x. Now you're going to do that actual work of doing that multiplication. So you're going to multiply this right over the 2x times the 4x squared, giving you 8x cubed, which is what we needed. Then we're going to do the second term in the trinomial. So you're going to multiply 2x times negative 6x, giving you negative 12x squared. Then you're going to multiply 2x times 9, giving you plus 18x. Let me give you a second to write that down while I solve my continuing cat problem. All right, so back to our problem. Remember, here's the hard part. You have to force yourself to subtract. Now, when you're going to do that, you got to be really careful about your signs. Everybody gets the first term right, and people make errors on the remaining ones. So, of course, everybody's going to do 8 minus 8, and that's going to give you 0. Don't write anything down if it's 0. Now, here's your hard one. 0 minus negative 12 gives you positive 12x squared. Then you have 0 minus 18. And if you notice, now you just have a binomial, but on my divisor that I'm using here is supposed to be a trinomial. So I'm going to bring that 27 down. Okay. Now we need to get these two terms to match. Look at that, the variables match. All I need to do is multiply by positive 3. And now I'm going to do that. 3 times this, 3 times this, and 3 times this. So multiply your divisor by 3. So 3 times this. Oh, there we go. And then 3 times 9, 27. Okay, here's the hard part. Subtract. So 12 minus 12, 0. There are no x squareds left. Negative 18 minus negative 18 is 0. There's no x's. And 27 minus 27 is also 0. So everything went to 0, which means this divides evenly. Now you may be saying, but what is my answer? My answer is 2x plus 3. And that's my answer. Now, what's special about that? What's special about it is that means that this is a factor of the original term. Now, I don't know if you happen to notice that, but that's the sum of cubes, which means that 8x cubed plus 27, if you factored it with the formula, would give you exactly this. 2x plus 3 and 4x squared minus 6x plus 9. Now, you may have heard this expression before. If you don't have a remainder, that means that it divided evenly into your problem. And you're absolutely right. Let's try one more long division problem together. Actually, I've got two. So we got two more long divisions, and then I'm going to show you my favorite way to divide, which is synthetic division, which is so off the chain, kind of weird, but also kind of fun. All right, so take this value that's right here, your dividend, and divide by this. Remember, the higher power goes under the radical. The smaller one goes, sorry, it's not a radical, division, little hut there. So let's set it up. So I've got x squared minus 4x plus 3. Then you're going to make your division sign and put underneath it the one with the higher power. And by that, I mean the polynomial with a higher power. Okay, so we need to make these match. So I look at it and say, what do I need to put on there to make that match? I know, multiply by x. So you put whatever you're going to multiply right up there, and then you do that multiplication. So you're now going to multiply this times your divisor. That will give you x cubed minus 4x squared plus 3x. Draw a line under it. Here's the hard part. You got to remember to subtract. Everybody remembers to subtract the first term, and then they start adding the second one. So 1 minus 1, 0. You have no more x cubes. Negative 6 minus negative 4 is negative 2. X squared, not negative 10. Don't add. 11 minus 3 is going to be positive 8. X, not 14. You got to subtract. Now, that's a trinomial. This is a binomial. So let's bring a number down so they match. Now we're at our final stage of our problem. We need these two things to match. The best way to do that is to multiply your divisor by negative 2. And then you do it. Multiply that negative 2 times each of those. Now, I don't know if you noticed those match. Okay, but remember, we're subtracting, we're not adding, which means negative 2 minus negative 2 is 0x squared. 8 minus 8, 0x. Negative 6 minus negative 6, 0. That means there's no remainder, which means my answer is x minus 2, and that's my solution. Now, what if it said to write, as it does here, write the dividend, which is this, in terms of the quotient and the remainder? Well, all I have to do is say x cubed minus 6x squared plus 11x minus 6 is the same thing as x minus 2 times x squared minus 4x plus 3. Notice I took my final answer, which is the remainder, and I just made it times the divisor, and that's supposed to equal that. By the way, that divides evenly. There's no remainder. Let's flip to the other side and do the last long division one. So here's our challenge on this long division, using those placeholders. So obviously this is going to be under my division sign. This is going to be outside. That's my divisor. But do you notice that's missing the x to the first power term? I'm going to put a placeholder even in the divisor. Why? That placeholder is going to help me do a better job explaining it. It's going to help you do a better job understanding it. So I have a 16 x to the fourth, and then, oh my God, there's no x to the third. So I'm going to put a 0. There's no x squared. I'm going to put a 0. There's no x to the first. I'm going to put a 0. And then I've got my constant. Now I know you're saying, why do I need to put all these placeholders in? It's to help you, okay? Now let's get this to match. All right, I need 4x squared to look like 16x to the fourth. Again, ignore those guys right there. So I need a 4x squared. Now I'm going to multiply this result that I've got right here times that trinomial. Draw your line. Here's the hard part. Remember, you have to subtract. So 16 minus 16, no problem. 0 minus 0, no problem. 0 minus 36 gives you negative 36x squared. Now at this point, I'm sitting here looking at a monomial. I need more terms because that's a trinomial. So I'm going to bring down the 0. And I'm going to bring down my negative 85 to fill in those gaps for me. Now I go through and I say, all right, what do I need to multiply by so that these guys match? Looks like a negative 9. So I'm going to put a minus 9 up there. And then I'm going to do that division. So, I'm sorry, multiplication, then the division. So negative 9 times 4 is negative 36. X squared, negative 9 times 0, 0. And negative 9 times 9 is going to be negative 81. Okay, let's do that subtraction and write it out. So remember, you're subtracting, force yourself to do it. Negative 36 minus 36 is 0. 0 minus 0, of course, 0. Negative 85 minus negative 81 is going to be negative 4. Okay, now this one has real specific instructions for how it wants the answer. So it wants, if I go back and look, I've got to write my dividend in terms of the quotient and the remainder. Okay, so let's go back over here and let's do that. So just like we did on the last problem, we know that 16x to the fourth minus 85 equals 4x squared plus 9. I'm getting that from right there. Okay, right there. And then I'm pulling down 4x minus 9 from up there at the top. And then the minus 4, that's my remainder. So if I FOIL those together and then subtract 4, I will get that. And that's how you write it out. All right, so that is how we work those out. Let's do the other way, synthetic division. Now, when I show you this, you are going to just be blown away by it. Please don't freak out. Don't worry, I'm going to do another example, and it's a lot easier than it looks, but it's going to seem crazy. All right, so here's how you do synthetic division. I'm going to read through the steps, and then I'm going to do it, and then we'll do it again, and then we'll do it a couple more times, and then we will absolutely be able, actually we just have 2 more problems to do. Okay, so just a couple more problems. Okay, here's how you do it. Step 1, bring down the first coefficient. To change from long division format to synthetic division format, write only a and the coefficients of the dividend. Okay, bring down the first coefficient, multiply a by the first coefficient, add the resultant to the second coefficient. Repeat this process until all columns are complete. Use all the numbers in the last row to write the quotient and the remainder. Well, that's a lot. Okay, so here's how you do it. you're going to start off by taking this little piece right there, setting it equal to 0, and solving it, which means that x is equal to 3. So we're going to make this weird kind of backwards L shape, and we're going to put a 3 down. That's what we're going to be doing our division with. Next, we're going to do the leading coefficients for every single term. So I'm going to start right here with the 2. So I write down a 2. Notice I'm writing on the same level as the 3, just not right next to the 3. Then I've got a -7 for x to the second power. I don't have an x to the first power. I must put a placeholder. And then I have a -4 for a constant. Let me give everybody a chance to write that down. Okay? Now, you need to leave a line here for your numbers, so leave some space and drop down and draw a horizontal line. I know, it's pretty wild and it's pretty crazy looking. All right, so we need something to get started with. So we drop the very first coefficient down, and we're going to proceed as follows. Multiply the 3 times the 2, put it below the -7, and add. Okay, so 3 times 2 is 6, and then we're going to add straight down, so we get a -1. Then you're going to do 3 times -1, put that below the 0, and you're going to add straight down. 3 times -3, add straight down. Now you'll notice I'm going to separate off the last number a little bit. By the way, that's 13, not 3. This guy right there, that's my remainder. Now, I know right now you're just saying, I'll do the long division. This doesn't have a good enough payoff for me. Yeah, it does. All right, so this problem that we were just doing started with an x cubed. You need to take 1 degree lower to write your answer. So my answer is 2x squared minus x minus 3. Now, because this is a minus, I'm going to have to write a minus here. Normally, I'd write a plus. Minus 13 over x minus 3. And that's the answer. Now, why do I like doing this over doing the long division? Once you get the hang of it, it's going to be a lot faster. Let's try another one. Okay, this is our last one for today. Remember, if you're totally bamboozled by what's happening, don't worry. I'm going to be back on Monday. After we do our quiz, I can answer more questions then, or even better, Tuesday. All right, so here's how you set it up. You're going to start by solving this, so you get x equals 1. Then you put 1 over here in this little backwards compartment by itself. Take all the leading coefficients. So I'm going to have a 3x to the third, a 0x squared, a -5x, and a 10. Remember, I'm putting that 0 there because I'm missing a term and I need that placeholder. Draw a line and drop the 3 straight down. Now, you're just going to be multiplying and adding. So 1 times 3 is 3, add. 1 times 3 is 3, add. 1 times -2 is -2, add. So this guy right here, that's my remainder. So let's write our answer. So remember, you're going to start 1 degree lower than what you started with last time because you divided out a degree. So this will be 3x squared plus 3x minus 2 plus 8 over x minus 1. Yeah, that's it. once you get the hang of it, it is a lot faster than doing long division. Not to mention, you don't have the confusion with the subtracting because you're always adding. So it does have its advantages. We'll talk more about it and try more problems on Tuesday. Just a quick reminder, your quiz will have part of it that is graphing calculator and part of it that's non-graphing. It will also have a paper part and a computer part. The paper part will be with your graphing calculator. The computer part will be non-graphing. And finally, your quiz is on Monday, not Friday. Now, if you need to reach me, I will be reachable by email on Friday, and I will be back in my room at 7:30 on Monday, and I would love to answer your questions. If you have questions before then on Friday, take a screenshot and send me your questions, and I will answer them while I'm away on Friday. I just can't answer them on Thursday. If I don't see you or hear from you until Monday, I hope you have an excellent weekend. Remember, the answer key for the review is on the back of the review. And if you have other questions, I also want to remind you that you can ask questions of Miss Deich, or you can ask questions of Miss Davis, both of whom are in the building. Have a good weekend.